Before this video starts, I would like to take a moment to say that I have a playlist of all the content that I use in this video, so please check all of that out if you haven't already. Thank you and enjoy. Greek mythology has been the inspiration for many great works of art recently across all mediums. God of War and Hades, the video games, Hades Town the musical, the Percy Jackson reboot. But the work of art I want to talk about today, along with my good friend and other half of the channel, Brendan,
hello,
is a musical that stepped into the spotlight on the grandest stage of them all, the same stage that Ratatouille the musical was performed on. TikTok. Created by and starring the great Jorge Rivera-Herrans. Epic the musical tells the story of Odysseus, king of Ithaca, and his journey with 600 men across the seas as he desperately tries to do everything in his power to return to his son and wife. However, that is easier said than done, as Odysseus faces many dangerous creatures, storms, and even the gods themselves. So, can Odysseus do it? Shall he lead his men home in victory, or shall the tidal waves claim their lives? But most importantly, what banging songs are they singing along the way? Stories broke up into different sagas because Jay was a fan of Dragon Ball Z, which just makes him the greatest person on earth for bringing that into his creative works. Currently, as of making this video, 3 sagas have been fully released. The Troy Saga, the Cyclops Saga, and the Ocean Saga. We begin with probably the most well-known moment in Greek mythology history, the Trojan Horse attack. It's so popular that there's even a computer virus named after it. I want to mention real quick, there's a concept that we are introduced to right off the bat. Jorge Rivera-Herrans, the mastermind of music himself, represents each character with a musical instrument, such as Odysseus being represented by an electric guitar when he's using his cunning, and then a nylon guitar when he's more melancholic. And we're given an example of this right as in the opening riff of the first song.
Alright, my brothers, listen closely.
As Odysseus is explaining his plan of attack, and immediately we are given the emotional stakes and motivation behind this attack. This is a war filled with vengeance and bloodshed, and they are seeking to put an end to it by any means necessary. Jay has made many short videos explaining his creative process, which you should check out. Besides, he's a generally great and laid-back kind of person, so please check out his work across TikTok, YouTube, everywhere if you haven't already, because this is truly an amazing project that I can't wait to see finalized one day. Anyways, as the Greeks burst out of the horse to attack the sleeping Trojans, we are treated with the amazing orchestral piece, accompanied by the sounds of war cries and fighting until lightning strikes, and Odysseus receives a vision of a man slaughtering him and his family in the distant future. As an eagle is heard, we are introduced to Zeus, father of gods himself, played by Lukeholt, tells Odysseus that the man he saw was the son of Prince Hector, and he must kill him right here and now.
A mission to kill someone's son, a foe who won't run, unlike anyone you have faced before.
Say no more, I know that I'm ready.
I don't think you're ready.
Then we're introduced to the infant part of The Horse and the Infant. To the sound of a music box, we hear Odysseus' conflict as he pleads with Zeus that there must be another way. There is nothing he can do. The blood on his hands is something he won't lose. All he can choose is whose. Well, this is Brandon's favourite song, the musical, and what an incredible song it is. So I'm just going to let him talk about it.
In these first few songs, the musical ideas are set, and these motifs will be brought up throughout the entire musical to show how Odysseus develops and his journey progresses. And most of all, Jorge knows he's got an absolute winner with this one. I sing it over and over again in my head, day after day. So, of course, he would have these motifs throughout the whole musical.
Does a ripple begin? become a tidal wave? When does the reason become the blame? When does a man become a monster? When does a ripple become a tidal wave? 43 left under your command. When does a man become a monster?
In Just a Man, 20 million people are brought to tears as Odysseus has to grapple with the fact that he has to kill an infant child for the good of his friends, his family, and his kingdom of Ithaca. It's honestly a question that dates back to before time itself, and has been asked in media hundreds of times. Baby Hitler, baby Thanos, baby Daleks.
Listen, if someone who knew the future pointed out a child to you and told you that that child would grow up totally evil, to be a ruthless dictator who would destroy millions of lives, could you then kill that child?
Justify it by saying choking a weed out before it grows. Have you ever wondered what that dreadful feeling would sound like? Well, Horgy Borgy Horge Jorge Jimbo Pimbo himself went ahead and made this.
When does a man become a monster? I'm just a man.
That is what Epic the Musical excels at. The skill of capturing a feeling or an idea in such a vivid way as Epic has done is not something you come across very often. The sense of dread in Polyphemus, the head-to-head clash of a stalemate in Done For, and the overwhelming feeling of despair and helplessness in Get in the Water.
Get in the water. Wait. Get in the water. Stop this, please.
Similarly, in Just a Man, it's the feeling of doing the greater good but becoming a dreadful person in the process. One of many moments that will turn Odysseus into a man who takes the low road, so others may live on their high road in peace. But enough of this melancholy and being an emotional mess, because it is time for some me and the boys energy. Full speed ahead. Choo choo. Wait, no, they're on a boat. I mean, sail, sail, woo!
600 men under my command, with only one goal in mind. Make it back alive to our homeland.
In these next songs, we are introduced to Odysseus' struggle of leading 600 men across 600 miles of sea and dealing with what lies in between. Now our journey has begun. We are introduced to Eurylochus, the second in command to Odysseus, played by Armando Julián, and the voice of the crew, hence why his vocals are often echoed by the voices of the crewmates, who are all very manly men, soldiers wanting the most efficient option that take care of their needs. Hence why he suggests that, to restock their supplies, they just raid an island and be done with it. But Odysseus, after killing an infant, wants to have as little bloodshed as possible. So, in comes this little ball of optimism and good vibes with the face and voice of a sunrise, Polites, played by stevendookie. Polites sees that Odysseus is pretty torn up about the whole baby-killing thing, and being in a war for however many years, not having seen his wife since his child was an infant also. So Polites tries to get him to relax as they go on their recon mission to the island. And of course, there's no better way to do that than with a song.
Try to relax, my friend,
And find Polites.
think of all that we have been through. We'll survive what we get into.
In open arms, Polites tries to get Odysseus to see that after being in a war for so long, the rest of the world isn't out to kill him. They even come across these lotus eaters called Winions, which are nothing like Illumination Studios' cash cows, I promise. These Winions are so high on lotus that they've been brainwashed by it and want to just keep on eating it, so if Odysseus and his crew were to eat it, they'd also never leave the place and be trapped forever. However, Polites is hopeful that he can still show that leading with peace and kindness can still be rewarded, and asks the Winions where they can go to get other food. The cave! I'm sure that'll be fine. Suddenly, to the sound of clocks ticking and piano-bopping tunes, goddess of wisdom Athena, played by Teagan Earley, appears to Odysseus, telling him to get his head in the game, that he must turn off his heart if he is to be a warrior of the mind, and get him and his crewmates back home safe. Here we get a glimpse into Odysseus' past with Athena, a trial to hunt a boar, a challenge of wit and cunning, which Odysseus as a child surpassed, by even tricking the god of wisdom herself into revealing her form to him. And so, ever since then, Athena has been his mentor and the reason Odysseus has risen through the military ranks like he has. So now, as Odysseus heads towards this cave, he's being pulled in two different directions. Follow his heart, as Polites shows him, or follow his mind, as Athena has taught him. Believe it or not, he tries to play it both ways as best as he can. But you know the saying about the middle of the road. That's how you get hit from both directions.
This saga is a masterclass for building the foundations of a story. We have only listened to 10% of the total songs, but we can already identify characters by their musical instruments and accompaniments. And once again, Jimbo Pimbo himself has these short videos explaining his mad genius, where the musical language we are learning also divides the mortals, who are represented by more orchestral traditional instruments, and the gods, who are represented by more electronic instruments, showing that divide of almost different worlds and time eras that these beings exist in. As such, the perfect marriage between these two ideas is when Odysseus uses his cunning, being represented by an electric guitar. Because where does he get his cunning from? But his mentor, who is the goddess Athena. Hence, the electronic influence upon the instrumentation. The Troy saga is what really launched Epic the Musical into the public eye. Because, hey, let's be honest, there is no better way to have your work seen by the public than to have your own songs become a trending sound on TikTok.
Nice try, but two can play this game.
Nah, don't be modest. I know you're a goddess, so let's be honest. You are Athena. Badass in the arena.
Thus, people start asking, where's that song from? Then, when they see the actual source material, they're amazed by how good it is. And boom, just like that, you have yourself an incredible success. And well, wouldn't you know it? As the story continues, the quality rises.
So where we last left off, Odysseus and Polites had found out from the Lotus Eaters that there's a cave full of food to eat for their 600 crew members. Lo and behold, it's true! A cave filled with sheep for them to eat. Seems almost too good to be true. Of course it was. Polyphemus, the Cyclops of the Cyclops saga, the name of the first song, and most importantly, he is the one living in the cave who sees that Odysseus and his crew have killed his favorite sheep.
You killed my sheep. My favorite sheep.
And the Cyclops is not about to let that slide. However, Odysseus tries his best to peacefully resolve the situation by offering wine and calling himself Nobody in order to trick the Cyclops, and escape scot-free. But just as he thinks they're seeing eye to eye, he is told he will be the final one to die.
What? Watch out!
As we jump straight into the next song, Survive, we see the building blocks from the Troy saga come into play. The theme that 600 lives that Odysseus is responsible for are now in danger. And it's up to him to form a new battle strategy similar to when they were in Troy. But this monster is far more of a threat than the drunk guards they previously dealt with. Especially when Polyphemus takes hold of the club. That musical theme that is to represent how many men are sailing alongside Odysseus is taken by the Cyclops and turned into how many men are going to die under Odysseus's command. The way the crew are just suddenly silenced by the club is sickening.
He's got a club. He's got a club! What are our orders? Captain! Captain!
600 lives I'll take, 600 lives I'll break, and when I kill you, then my fate is over. You're dying here and now, escape is not allowed. You won't live through this day now, die.
Thankfully, with Odysseus being a warrior of the mind, his plan works as the wine he'd given the Cyclops was mixed with lotus and knocks him out. Now they must move quickly. As Odysseus snaps out of it, his electric guitar bursts through the silence, playing heavy power chords as he begins to give commands to his crew once again.
We must move quickly. We don't have much time.
His men work to form a giant spear to blind the Cyclops before making a run for it. But then it is suddenly revealed that there is more than one Cyclops. But once again, Odysseus had thought so far forward that when Polyphemus is asked who hurt him, he has to respond with nobody. The other Cyclops merely think that Polyphemus has hurt himself.
Was nobody, nobody. If nobody hurts you, be silent. Don't go.
And with that, the crew escape to their boats, but not without severe loss. No longer 600 men. Polites and many others were killed trying to fight the Cyclops. And so there's nothing more that Odysseus can do but remember them, ensuring that these men did not die in vain, to be able to bring the crew home safely, to be able to fight in their memory.
But then, we hear clocks ticking, and piano bopping once again as Athena appears to tell Odysseus to finish off the Cyclops. Now that he's blind, he's helpless, but still a threat if left to recover. In this moment we see Odysseus turn his back on the goddess of wisdom, and in a moment where his electric guitar of cunning starts to lose its power chords and gets lost with the chorus and vocals, he tears down his careful planning of introducing himself as nobody and tells the Cyclops that on this day his life was mercifully spared by the king of Ithaca, Odysseus.
So he basically doxed himself in ancient Greek times. I'm sure that'll be perfectly fine.
In fact, it is so perfectly fine that Athena says, you know what? I don't think this partnership is going to work out as well as she thought it would have. The two get into an argument in the song My Goodbye, which is an incredible duet between Odysseus and Athena, as the feelings of a mortal clash with the ideals of a god. We begin to see that in this moment, Odysseus is the one who has to shoulder all this pain, all the trials and tribulations of being the captain of 600 men, many of which he has lost now, and every loss puts strain that he has to deal with. Meanwhile, Athena is only interested in having a warrior fight in her name for her glory because Why wouldn't she? She's a goddess looking for the most notable historical accomplishments attributed to her. This warrior of the mind that she had shaped in her image was nothing more than wanting to bet on the winning horse. But of course, Odysseus has seen Athena as a mentor and a friend, the feelings of a mortal clashing with the ideals of a god.
One day you'll hear what I'm saying. One day you might understand. One day, but not today. For after all, you're just this day you sever your own head. This day you cut the line. This day you lost it all. Consider this as my goodbye.
She says he was nothing more than a waste of effort spent. And so away Athena goes, cutting Odysseus off, and he's left to leave his crew by his wit alone.
Consider this as my goodbye. This is my goodbye.
The Cyclops saga is far more fast-paced than the Troy saga, with each song leading directly into one another in quick succession, as we will see from now on in this musical. Whereas in the Troy saga, you could divide that into two parts, those being, the horse and the infant leading into just a man. Then there's a break in the action as we cut to the crew leaving on their journey, followed by the first island exploration and Athena's first appearance. Both sagas end with a song from Athena, as we see how Odysseus' character and ideals are changing due to his own actions and the losses he has suffered. However, his motivation remains the same: to get himself and his crew back to Ithaca. That one singular purpose that unites these 600 men. Whether they still be alive or not, they all shared that one goal. Like I had mentioned before, Odysseus had tried to play both sides by quickly hunting the sheep he saw, but then trying to peacefully resolve the confrontation with the Cyclops. He tried being a warrior of the mind while greeting the world with open arms. And he ended up losing both Athena and Polites. Now that Odysseus has turned his back on the literal goddess of wisdom, doxed himself to the Cyclops he just blinded, and now must recover from heavy losses without properly resupplying anywhere, I don't have high hopes for the outcome of this crew. Especially after the crew's ball of optimism has been slain. As Odysseus and his crew return to the open seas, I wonder what awaits them out there. Now, if I was a gambling man, and I am a gambling man, please subscribe and become a member so I can feel my habits, I would say that this brass that's getting thrown at us right off the bat is representative of the good old titular ocean and storm that our crew is being battered with as we head into this next saga. What starts as a soul-lit trumpet erupts into a full brass section with cymbals crashing, a chorus ha-ha-hawing, and all those other chaotic storm motifs we all know and love. Odysseus and his crew are met with an impenetrable storm that they won't be able to hold out against. All hope seems lost until Odysseus looks to the sky where he sees a floating island that is supposed to be floating on the water, but dramatic license says it's now floating in the sky because wind god. Odysseus calls for his men to shoot for the sky with the harpoons, and they make it to shore? Safely? As it seems that this is the home of the wind god.
We're in the home of the wind god.
We don't know for sure.
How many floating islands have you seen before?
The next song has far softer dynamics than the previous storm, now that the weather has calmed. In Luck Runs Out, we see Eurylochus begin to challenge Odysseus on whether, after what happened back with Polyphemus, should he still greet the world with open arms? But Odysseus wishes to not turn off his heart just yet in remembrance of Polites. They have a bit of a back and forth, with each of Eurylochus' questions being emphasized by harmonies that just tickle my brain the right way.
Much longer till your luck runs out. How much longer till the show goes south?
As Eurylochus is the voice of the crew. He keeps questioning how long Odysseus thinks his luck will last by approaching situations with his guard down, until he is taken aside by Odysseus, explaining he can't have him contradicting his orders or his directions, at his hesitation and confusion that will lead to their downfall. After all, he led 600 men into war and none of them died, so clearly the whole polyphemus thing was just a once-off, isolated incident.
Odysseus makes it to the top of the island, where he's met by the most windy of windwood instruments. The next song, Keep Your Friends Close, has Odysseus striking a deal with Aeolus, the twisting, turning, giving fire-burning wind god, to blow the storm away that they can't pass through. But what's the catch, I hear you ask? Well, Aeolus gives Odysseus a bag that contains the winds of the storm they need to get past, and to make sure it is not opened ever. As he returns to the ship, he is met with some skeptical crewmates who inquire what's actually in the bag. And when some pesky Winions attempt to spread a rumour that it's treasure, Odysseus has to trust in his crew that they will believe him and not open the bag. But after the conversation between Eurylochus and Odysseus in Luck Runs Out, we know that there is severe unrest amongst the crew, and their faith in their captain is waning. They even remark that the captain hasn't been himself since losing Polites, a line that struck the heartstrings of many fans way too hard. Odysseus stays awake for 9 days straight. Unopposed, the bag stays closed, and he is so close to seeing Penelope and Telemachus again. Oh, how he longs to.
Odysseus, they're opening the bag! Wake up! No! Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Never really know who you can trust.
Where's the storm taking us?
I said to keep the bag closed, but you weren't compliant. If I had to guess, you're headed to the land of the giants.
As the storm theme and Full Speed Ahead erupt to break Odysseus out of his slumber, he frantically tries to reclose the bag. Aeolus announces that he has failed the challenge, and now he is to be whisked away by the brass section storm winds to the land of the giants. As the song comes to a close, we think it is all over. And then a voice,
The voice of Stephen Rodriguez,
rises from the waves.
Odysseus of Ithaca! Do you know who I am?
and then we are treated to an equally as chilling character introduction as Polyphemus.
Poseidon.
Face to face with yet another god, but Odysseus has never been face to face with a god intent on killing him. For you see, Poseidon, who sounds like the most intimidating surfer dude you have ever heard, is the father of the cyclops that Odysseus blinded. You know, because Polyphemus really has Poseidon's eye. Poseidon is here for vengeance, but before he carries out the slaughter, he lectures Odysseus that the whole half-assed greeting the world with open arms, self-righteous, I'm better than you for not killing you and I'm gonna teach you a lesson bullshit doesn't cut it in this world. Mercy isn't a skill that more could do with learning. Ruthlessness is mercy upon yourself.
Ruthlessness is mercy upon ourselves. Ruthlessness is mercy upon ourselves.
If he had just killed the Cyclops, then all this could have been avoided.
But no.
And even after being told off by a literal god who was about to kill him, Odysseus still turns around to Poseidon and tries to plea and bargain and excuse his actions and resolve this without any more debts. Poseidon is sick of this Greek and takes that act as a lesson not learned. So the sea god feels a demonstration is in order.
Ruthlessness is die.
Hearing his crew cry out to their captain once again, Odysseus is beginning to see a pattern emerge. He cannot believe his eyes. When he left Troy, 600 men set off, full speed ahead to face the dangers ahead of them, to get back to their homeland. Now, only 43 remain under his command. Odysseus grapples with his morals, of whether this, his darkest moment, is what shall make him turn off his heart and become the monster. As we hear one of the many just a man motifs play, Poseidon asks if Odysseus has any last words.
All I gotta do is open this bag. What?
And the last thing we hear from Poseidon as Odysseus escapes from a storm of brass instruments.
Remember me.
It's sort of like poetry. It rhymes.
The Ocean Saga has been described as the find out part of the fuck around and find out. A huge theme of this saga is consequences. The consequences of Odysseus trying to be this fearless leader while also trying to keep the peace. In an attempt to be the paragon of good morals, Odysseus loses almost half of his crew to Poseidon's attack. Even if Poseidon hadn't drowned them all, the seeds of mutiny had already been sown. We see Eurylochus, who is described by many to be the voice of the crew, start to question Odysseus's leadership, which comes to pitch in Keep Your Friends Close, as the crew open the bag Odysseus explicitly told them not to open. And on top of all of that, after losing hundreds of men because of Odysseus's actions, he then opens that very same bag to make his own escape. Yes, the same bag he told nobody to open. So, after poor leadership, lack of trust, and an act of hypocrisy, I sense mutiny over the horizon for poor Odysseus. But that's a story to come in the next saga. So I'll see you guys in a couple of years when the next 3 sagas are fully released.
The story of Epic, while being the adaptation of a Greek mythology story, Homer's The Odyssey, it seems to speak with and resonate with people far more than its original story-told format. And that, in part, is big thanks to the music itself being used as a storytelling tool. I could gush about every note, every instrument, every lyric, but I will contain myself for the sake of your attention spans. Each saga and song introduces new aspects and ideas that can be used in future songs, as well as being called back to in order to keep this sort of chronological comprehension alive as the story progresses. I feel that music to ears is like colours to eyes. Eyes can recognize colours in all different shades. We can relate them to different feelings, different objects, based on our prior experiences. And similarly, you can do it the same with musical sounds, lyrics, things you've heard before and you know and you associate with these same things. Epic the Musical has almost these laws of music when it comes to its composition. As previously mentioned, different instruments represent different characters, and it also has the divide between the mortals and the gods based on whether they have more traditional orchestral instruments or electronic instruments. But then we go one step further, as we start looking at the backing vocals that occur in different songs at different points in the story. Now, something that Jay had been discussing recently is that you also must think of each of these songs being performed on stage. And so, people can't just randomly appear in a scene just for the sake of them accompanying the lead singer. While I used to think that a chorus accompanying a singer was exclusive to gods, we then see that Eurylochus is accompanied by the crew, but that's because they're already in that scene. In comparison with Athena in Warrior of the Mind, an ensemble joins in when her appearance is revealed.
You are Athena, badass in the arena.
That's because the gods can just summon whoever they want to sing with them as they please in this musical, which sort of gives them this omnipresent feeling. Similarly, we go one step deeper to that, the instruments that represent those gods can be heard even when they're not on stage to show their presence. As some examples is Athena's clock ticking can be heard in the opening of Horse and the Infant. And Aeolus's flute can be heard as they arrive at the island very faintly when they're talking about the home of the wind god.
We're in the home of the wind god.
We don't know for sure.
How many floating islands have you seen before?
Then you hear the flute more strongly as Odysseus is talking face to face with Aeolus. And the big part of this is Poseidon. As at the beginning of the Ocean Saga, we hear those trumpets and the brass section and the chorus, you know, the ensemble that's coming from nowhere. Where I previously thought that the brass was to represent the storm in the ocean, it's actually associated with Poseidon. And there's also the ensemble that comes out of nowhere, which means that Poseidon got pissed off a lot quicker than we thought, and that's the reason that storm blew him all the way to Poseidon, where he could properly beat the ever-living daylights out of Odysseus himself. There are many repeated ideas throughout Epic, even some things as small as just repetition that I personally like to point out, such as just people saying "what," just spoken out loud rather than sang.
What?
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 Sorry, what?
But the most repeated and the core musical idea of the whole show is in Just a Man, myself and Brandon's favourite song out of the whole musical so far.
I'm just a man.
After all your this day, you sever your own head.
And in the most recent, fully released song that we have, Ruthlessness, we hear an ensemble coming from seemingly nowhere singing those Just a Man lyrics.
When does a ripple become a tidal wave?
When does a ripple become a tidal wave?
When does a man become a monster?
When does a man become a monster?
And Poseidon sings back the lyrics that Odysseus sang in Remember Them after he had blinded the Cyclops.
I am your darkest moment. I am your darkest moment. The monster that always draws near. Remember me. Remember me.
So Poseidon is just creating this scene for Odysseus to see, just the actual magnitude of his actions, and these are the consequences that he must face, and is literally saying to him, this is your fault, this is why, ha ha ha. What a petty, petty boy. The most amazing part about this musical is that it's not even done yet. There are only 13 out of 40 songs fully released, and there are over 1 million people eagerly waiting every new snippet of each new song, let alone when the songs are fully released. It is incredible to see how the internet can be used to support such an incredible project. And Jorge Rivera-Herrans is such a passionate individual, and he puts so much love and care into each pluck of a guitar string, each word that comes out of his mouth to be put into this musical. Not to mention, he's a lovable nerd and loves using anime and video game references throughout all of his creative work. There's a small multi-part video that he made about his creative process for the promotional material for the Ocean Saga, being the animatic that he collaborated with WolfyTheWitch to make. And in that, you just perfectly see where his mind goes to when he's thinking about all these different scenes. Like, he even references Gabby from Attack on Titan and other such things. Especially, he loves boss fights, hence why Polyphemus and Poseidon and future fights that will happen. There's a very big Dark Souls influence, I feel, as in the song Survive, we are seeing that the Cyclops goes from, the easy first phase to picking up the club and entering the second phase of the boss fight. Speaking of the promotional material and the animatics made, I need to say the biggest thank you to all of the artists who I reached out to and said that I could use these animatics for this video. It has really helped, as there is not much footage of Epic the Musical outside of vertically recorded videos, so I didn't want to have every reference just be boxed in like this, thanks to TikTok. And those artists are Scilla Nimation, WolfyTheWitch, Anni Flamma, Mircsy, and Gigi. I apologize for any mispronunciations, but please check out all of the work across everywhere, everything, for all of time. They are amazing people and do amazing work and are extremely talented, and has made this video much easier to make, much more comprehensible. Speaking of community content, I also took a dive into the Epic the Musical Discord server, and never have I seen such a kind and supportive community. Like, they even have a voice chat where they just sing epic songs, or any songs in general. They just have karaoke nights in the Discord chat, and they just have the greatest time, and everyone is just so supportive of everyone getting their chance to just say or do as they feel, and it's great and it's wholesome. And there are a few people in there that I would happily call my friends after I joined that Discord server in the short time that I've been there. I think that is the true magic of what this musical has done. It has fostered such a wholesome community without even being completed yet, which is just the reason why I feel that Epic the Musical is the greatest musical that doesn't exist. Thank you all so much for watching.
I lost my best friend, I lost my mentor, my mom, 500 men gone. This can't go on, I must get to see Penelope and Telemachus. So if we must sail through dangerous oceans and beaches, I'll go where Poseidon won't reach us. And if I gotta drop another infant from a wall in an instant so we all don't die, then I'll become the monster. I will deal the blow, and I'll become the monster like nothing ever known. So what if I'm the monster lurking deep below? I must become the monster, then we'll make it home.
I'm not adding that in.